Hello everybody! My name is Anna and I welcome you to the next episode of My Home. While waiting for my guest, I would like to talk to you about the pandemic situation and everything which a lot of people have to go through, especially in terms of employment. A lot of people lost their jobs and now currently sitting at home and thinking that they're just wasting their time. What I would like to recommend to everybody is to get busy with few things. First, you can start actively looking for jobs. You can start applying, updating your CV, your resume, and looking for jobs outside of Kurdistan region as well. Second thing you can do is to go online and study. And the third thing I would like to recommend for everyone is start looking for job online right now. You can do translation work, you can do online consultancy, you can start online teaching. And I'm very excited to introduce my friend Natalie, who's coming over today to give you a very valuable advice on the job search, updating your CV, and on the whole picture of the HR world. Hi Natalie, come on in.
Hi Anna, thank you for having me here.
You're welcome and I'm really happy to see you. Thanks for making some time to visit and share some of the advices and the experience with our viewers.
It's my pleasure, thank you for having me here.
How about we have a sit? Hi Natalie, it's so good to have you here. I'm really happy that you made it. I know that you've been super busy lately, but you made some time today to come over and have a chat with me. And I'm sure that this conversation will be very inspiring and useful for all our viewers.
Thank you so much Anna, I really appreciate it. I hope we're going to have a great sessions together today. Thank you.
My pleasure. And could you please introduce yourself slightly to our viewers and then tell us what is your job. So it's not going to be a secret for everybody.
Sure, so my name is Natalie Afrasaib. I'm originally Kurdish from Iran. I grew up in the United Kingdom in London, so I moved from Kurdistan when I was 4 years old. So I've just recently been back to Kurdistan within the last 6 months.
So you're pretty new to the region, let's say.
I mean, I have been coming back on holiday occasionally every year, but this is the first time that I've moved back permanently. Yeah.
Oh, you've been visiting, right?
That's right.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite place in Kurdistan?
It definitely is Erbil as a capital, and then I love to travel through the nature. So places like Rawandas and, you know, Dukan and other places, so yeah.
How have you been doing this summer? You know, like nobody is able to travel. Did you manage to go outside Erbil and have some time off the city?
I mean, when it was the first lockdown, obviously we couldn't travel from city to city. I was trying to get to know Erbil by walking and, you know, going to little markets here and there. But since the lockdown has been lifted, I do go to different cities and I do travel a bit. So I'm getting familiar with the region.
What was your last trip, if it's not a secret?
So I just went to Duhok and Dukan next to Zmani. So I love nature, you know, sit by the river and get to know the area.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you're from Iran. Do you remember anything about Iran?
I'm from the Kurdistan side, so I haven't grown up in Iran. I was 4 years old. All my life I've been in London. I studied there. The majority of my family is there. So no, I haven't been to Iran.
What is your favorite part of London then?
In London?
Yes.
It's the cold weather, the coffee shops.
No, the favorite part of the city.
Oh, the favorite part of the city is definitely next to Chiswick. It's an area of very, very traditional English, British area. So that's the favorite part about it.
All right, and you started talking about the weather and the climate difference. So can you tell more about that as well? Because I think it's a bit difficult. The weather this year is pretty harsh. You know, it was plus 50, and now it's going down to plus 40. But still, I'm sure it's a big difference with the.
I mean, the weather change is completely different from London to Kurdistan. We have rain most of the time. It's cloudy, and to come back to a region where you have 40, 50 plus, it's very, very difficult. So I try to stay at home during the day and go out in the evening.
That is amazing. So, do you miss London?
Of course I do. I mean, it is my first time that I've actually completely stayed away from London for this long. All my memory, all my family, you know, so much memory. But I am happy that I did come to the region. It's a new experience. I'm adapting to a new culture. I mean, although I'm from Kurdistan, it's a completely different culture for me. So I do like the experience that I have.
I see. And how about the favorite place in Erbil?
The favourite place in Erbil, I don't think I have picked one yet.
Okay.
I'm still fairly new, but there will be one, hopefully.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so I know that you have a very fascinating story how you attained your 2 degrees plus masters.
Yeah, that's correct.
So let's share this with our audience as well.
Sure. I got married fairly young at the age of 18 and I had my son at 21. So as I mentioned to you before, there was a cultural barrier in our culture. If you don't obtain a certificate or some sort of an educational background, you don't fit in, and unfortunately this is how it is in our society. So anyway, just to cut the story short, my mum unfortunately was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So it was the first month that I went back to university. My son was 5 years old. So a lot of students at that age were partying every single day, having experience, traveling. I didn't get to do any of that. So while I was looking after my mum during the day, in the evenings I would go to university. This was for nearly 5 years straight. I would go to university with my son. He would be sleeping underneath the library table while I would study. So not only did I get 2 degrees, I also obtained a master's degree in oil and gas management.
So that's impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're saying you have achieved that in just 5 years?
5 years,
Well,
exactly.
I'm saying just 5 years,
Yeah.
but 5 years is a pretty long period of time.
Absolutely.
And that is amazing. I know how people feel when they have family members diagnosed with cancer, because I had two grandmothers who had the same issue. So I totally understand. And having a baby and still going and doing your study. So I think it's a really good example for everyone who's watching right now. Do not give up. Even if you are in a difficult situation, think forward and plan ahead.
Exactly.
And it's good. It's better to sacrifice right now something, maybe your time, fun activities in some way, right?
Absolutely.
But then set the higher goals and then work towards them.
Exactly.
And how about the degrees? Like you saying you have masters and
so I have 2 degrees,
Yeah.
2 degrees in international business with finance and 1 without finance. So it's a lot of topics in economy, finance, you name it, real estate. And then I went on to doing my masters in oil and gas management. So when I did the masters, I decided to come back and work in Kurdistan for an oil company where I'm now pursuing my HR role. So gradually I'm starting to go into the oil and gas industry.
what is the difference? What difference do you notice between working in Kurdistan region and back in the UK?
The thing is, HR system is fairly new in Kurdistan. I've noticed a lot of companies have HR system, but they tend to look at it as a payroll or staff pay. They don't really know the actual necessities of HR rules and regulations. When you go into human resources, it's a major factor. Every single company needs this. And it's a system that approaches, it's a protection system for the company as well protecting the employees. And it's not just about payroll, it's about training, motivating. If you know that there are some staff that are lacking qualities, you actually motivate them. You send them to academies to obtain that certificate and to pursue them further. So I've noticed that this doesn't exist here. And I was hoping that maybe I can start off with my company and gradually build this towards other companies as well.
I understand. And how about the quality of personnel here? Like a lot of people from the region trying to get the jobs, or you mostly hiring people from abroad as well. How do you qualify the people you're hiring?
The thing is, personally, I'd like to see that there's a bit of an unfairness here, because the majority of companies tend to get expats. And why we get expats is because they've got more experience. They tend to completely renew their trainings. They're always onto new certificates, finding new academic training. But here in Kurdistan, as soon as they've done with their degree, they tend to, I don't know if you've heard of WASTA, they tend to go into companies because of WASTA, and they don't approach to building themselves up stage by stage. This is why most companies tend to go for people from expats and abroad. And I think we can change this completely in this region.
All right, so I got this point and I totally agree with you on that. The next question I had is about students who actually graduated high school here in Kurdistan and then they traveled abroad, maybe US or UK, and then graduated from there and then they got back to Kurdistan region.
Yeah.
So is there a difference? Have you ever had the job seekers with this background who obtained a degree abroad and then they got back here, but still they grew up here. They are Kurdistan citizens, right? But they had this experience abroad. Do you see the difference between them and expats and those who graduated local universities?
You see, there's a big difference between those that travel out of Kurdistan, because when companies see that there are students who have graduated, we tend to give them experience. They have to come in for internships or placements or any work experience, and they become stronger. So it's between a 6 weeks to a 3 months work experience. But in Kurdistan, unfortunately, there's not a lot of this system here. As soon as a student has graduated, they stay at home, whereas it's very unfortunate. We need companies to actually employ them, even if it's for an internship placement, so that they can gain the experience. Because no matter how much you study, nothing is more valuable than an actual practical experience rather than just a theoretical experience.
So what do you mean that you've noticed that students themselves, they are not looking for these opportunities, and maybe there are companies who would provide these opportunities?
Absolutely.
What you're saying now here, because it's not in the culture, right? The companies needs to begin and start this kind of programs of internship so they can offer them maybe to the universities already. Absolutely. So then it's students can receive this information straight away while graduating or before they graduate.
Exactly.
That would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
And I totally agree on that as well, because in my country and maybe in the UK, in all the Western world, students, well, before they graduate, right, or during the last year at the university, they're already looking for the opportunities, right?
That's right.
So
absolutely.
they're not looking forward sitting at home and waiting when something will just land in their hands, and then they can start their work.
Absolutely. So one of the projects I wanted to mention to you is I work for an oil company called CAD Group, and I'm in the CAD pipeline. So we are affiliates of the company, of the main company. And the project that I have instead, hopefully this corona situation will get a bit easier. We're going to go to universities. So we're going to see those students that are working towards management, international business, or oil and gas industry, so that I can actually set up a program for them that they can come and work with us between 6 to 8 months, where we train them completely. And then based on their ability, we're going to bring them back in to work with us permanently. And then they would get a contract. And that's how we're trying to motivate the students here in the universities. And
that is amazing. That's a really, really great idea. So thank you for that. And then everyone who's watching, you guys, if you're still at the university, this is your last year, I think you should start looking for opportunities to get this internship and start applying, offering your services. Even if you will work for free a little bit, but you will gain this priceless experience which can help you to obtain a better job. All right, so how about those students who graduated right now or going to graduate this year? For those who graduated here from local universities, for students who are coming back from abroad, I know a lot of people and they children or some of my friends, they actually studying abroad, and then they are about to graduate and they're looking forward to come back to Kurdistan region and then get the job. Do you have any practical advices on how to apply for work, how to set the proper CV profile, or how to go for an interview and get the positive response?
Absolutely. I mean, my main advice for students or anyone looking for a job is to be very professional in applying for a job, because your first appearance is the most important. This is what's going to stand you out, and the first stage is the CV. I have noticed a lot of people in the region, when they send me a CV to my company, is that they have not a passport size photo, but they have a professional Snapchat photo on their CV, okay? And they have, when they provide me with the information, there is actually colored writing on the CV. They need to know what the real format is when applying for a job. They need to know, first of all, pictures. We don't look at pictures because it's not important to me what a person looks like. It's the way, it's about their experience, their proficiency, what they can offer me as an individual, and what we can give them back.
So let's make it clear about the photos, because a lot of people get confused with them. Like, should I place my picture on that CV or not? Because when you look online and you search for these templates, they all come with the place for the photograph, right?
Yeah.
So as you're saying, as a professional HR manager, photos are not really important, and most of, if you're placing the picture, make sure it's not like Instagram photo or a Snapchat. If you want to place a photo, you gotta place a proper professional headshot, You can just go to any photographer who can make it professionally. And how about the dress code? If you're taking a photo, of course, it shouldn't be a tank top or a summer dress, proper suit or a shirt, right?
The thing why I don't recommend a photo for a CV is because if you look at most European countries, we tend to employ people based on their abilities and their skills and knowledge. Unfortunately, a lot of companies, if you apply your photo without looking at your CV, they would just employ you based on your picture. And we try not using that at all. We want to know more about the person when they come in, how they're going to represent themselves. Are they professional in what they're wearing? How they're talking to us? Are they confident? Can they offer the company something? Can we give them something in return? So this is what we're looking for. It's very important that you have the right information on the CV and definitely no picture.
I also know, like from my personal experience, the email address matters because you can see a lot of email addresses with a funny name on it, so it has to be professional as well. How about the email addresses? What is the most popular right now? I think that it's Outlook. A lot of people do not use Yahoo or Gmail anymore.
You can use any of those, but it's very important that you have your name on it. For example, I'll give you a funny little story. A university student applied for me for a job that I posted a couple of months ago, and her actual name was JuicySasha.com. So you cannot have a professional name as Juicy Sasha. So you have to use your original name, and then whatever, if it's .com or Yahoo, it doesn't matter.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. And you also mentioned something about the colors in your CV. So now, again, if you Google, right, you look for templates, a lot of colorful and colored templates will pop up, and that's what makes a lot of people confused.
Absolutely.
And so can you please give more information on that?
Sure. The normal format would be black writing. It will be Arial or Time New Romans on your format on Word document. Your normal writing on the size of it should be 12 to 14, and then you should have 1.5 between each space of the line. So that is a professional format that we're looking for.
I'm sure, I hope everyone is taking their notes right now, so do not miss out this information. And again, the following question goes to the pages. Should we, or our viewers and anyone who apply for work, should it be just one page resume or 2 pages? Because I think not everybody likes to go through 10 different pages of information.
For a CV, no more than 2 pages. 2 pages is more than enough. All your skills, all your background experience, your university, high school. We don't need to know anything more than 10 years. You can, narrow them down in bullet points, just so that we have a rough idea what you have been doing for the past 10 years. And just a brief background information about why you're applying for the job, which is the top section. And that's it, really. Very simple.
So, speaking of top section, objectives, right?
Exactly.
So why do you want to get this job? And a lot of people write some general objectives and then they send it to everybody. So do you think it's the right way to deal with the job application?
It depends where you're applying for, because a lot of, if you're generalizing the whole companies, you can have the same topic on the back, on the top. But if you're changing industry, then you have to go with the different industries. And it's always better to write a cover letter. When you write a cover letter, you're explaining more about yourself and why you're applying for the job, whereas in the CV, you don't have this opportunity.
So basically, objectives is the summary of your cover letter.
Exactly.
You can write a cover letter and then take the main points and place them into the objectives section. All right, that's great. So after CV is set and then sent to the company, and if you're lucky enough and you got invited to the interview, what are the advices you can give to our viewers about how to prepare themselves for that, starting from the dress code, body language, what to know about the company background? Should we really be aware of what's going on in the company before visiting that place?
I always advise anyone applying for a job to do a research about that company that they're going to be applying for. Find out about the basic history, when they were established, what are they actually doing, how many employees that they have. So when you do go into the company, you have your set of questions to ask the interview. And I've noticed a lot of people when they go into an interview, they don't dress formal. they're very, very casual. You need to dress formal. You need to dress to impress. You need to smell good. You need to have your questions ready. So if the employer is asking you questions, you need to be prepared. So you know what you're saying, you know. And also, you know, you cannot come into an interview with sandals. You cannot come into an interview with colored clothing. You need to be very precise in how you represent yourself, because the first interview is what's going to pass you into the next stage. So that's very, very adequate.
Well, that is clear. And also you're talking about the company background. Some companies, they do not give a lot of information about them. So what to do in this kind of situation?
Sometimes you have to be ahead of everybody else. If the company is not giving you information, do your research through friends and family. Speak to other business members. Try and get as much information as you can. There is always a way around it. There is no such thing as I can't get this. You can definitely get everything.
Yeah, that also makes sense.
Yeah.
But as well, like you said, apart from dress code, you mentioned earlier that body language is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So any tips on that?
Yes, when you walk in, you have to be confident. You need to know how to use your hands. You need to directly look at the person talking to you. You know, don't fidget.
Just like we're doing right now.
Absolutely, exactly what we're
Don't
doing.
try to look around.
Absolutely. Smile, put your phone away and be confident, and, you know, just smile it all away and be very confident in all the answers that you're going to be providing.
All right, and then when your interview goes well, I know that a lot of companies, they already offer the salary. It's mentioned in the advertisement when they're looking for employees. But a lot of companies, they write that it's going to be agreed during the interview. So how to act in, on an interview while you're trying to get the best offer from the company. I know that a lot of people, they feel shy to ask for more. And I know that HR's job is to lower the cost, of course, and offer as less as possible. So how to deal with that? Because also I understand it's kind of psychological thing. Person needs to be prepared and really know what they worth, right?
Absolutely.
And at the same time, they don't want to really go over, not to lose the opportunity. So how to manage that situation in order to get the really good deal to satisfy yourself and of course your employer?
Absolutely. When a post about a vacancy goes online, I've noticed in this region they don't put the salary on there. You have to put the salary on there. But when a person comes into our company, it's not our duty to lower it, because we base the salary on their professionalism and proficiency of that person and what their skills are and what they're going to offer us. So we are not trying to lower it. We will only evaluate how they experience, their degree, their quality, and how we can match that salary with their values, basically. So this is what we're trying to look for.
I understand, but what I meant is that we've got different companies as well. We've got really tiny companies with an owner and maybe 2 employees, and then for them, if somebody tries to work for them, you know, they also need to know their way through the interview.
Of course,
right
of
now.
course. But this would be this would be a very, very small business. This is where you won't have HR system there.
That's all.
HR system is for major companies. You know, when you have a lot of employees, you need to have a lot of policies, rules and regulations, and something that is going to protect the company as well as the employees. So this is what the system is there for.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But now I think it's very clear for everyone who's watching, because when we think about getting a job, about the job interview, we do not really distinguish that much. Either it's a really large company or it's a very small, maybe family business.
Of course.
Everyone going for interview with the same intention to impress the employer and then get this job. But you see, the system is different. So you have to understand where you're going for interview as well.
Absolutely.
Not only being ready to get this job, but also know who is going to be your employer.
Exactly, exactly. To be honest, students, you're all studying, all right? You're all studying and you're aiming for a good job. And it's not just about the salary. It's about committing, you know, providing something towards your society, contributing, making a change. I might be able to influence you, you're going to influence the next person. This is how it works, okay? You have to aim for big companies. If they don't listen, you make them listen. How are they going to listen? You will send them projects, you will send them interviews, you will send them, you know, presentations, you will give them so much feedback that this company company is going to say, do you know what, I want this person. This person has qualities, bring them back in.
So you have to give in order to receive, and a lot of people, they do not really understand that.
Exactly.
And that's a really great advice, and thank you so much. You have to provide value in order to get something back.
Exactly.
And that was amazing. So also, in order to aim for big companies, I really like that advice that you have to make them notice you.
Exactly.
So
you have to
not
get
just
noticed.
wait, but act.
Yes.
All right, Natalie, thank you so much. I think we've given a lot of advices and information to our viewers on how to apply for a job, how to set their CV, go for an interview. But now, I would like to talk to you about what is the role of HR in a big company, give us more information about the system itself, and maybe inspire somebody to become an HR professional or HR manager sometimes in the future if they're still trying to choose their career path and try to choose where to go to study.
Absolutely.
And I suggest we move to the balcony so we can enjoy the view of the city and enjoy some fresh air.
Yeah, sure. We can do
All
that.
right, so let's go. All right, Natalie, welcome to my balcony now. How do you enjoy the view?
It's absolutely beautiful, especially here in Empire.
Yeah, and I think the sunset is amazing. You know, I've got two favorite things in Erbil, palm trees and sunsets. They're fascinating.
They're amazing, beautiful.
All right, so as we agreed earlier, we're going to talk now about the HR system in large companies, about the role of the HR, and it's going to be a really good example for our viewers and students and everybody who would like to pursue a career in HR. Natalie right now can give a lot of information on that.
So HR, human resources, is the foundation of every single company. It should realistically fall under the CEO and the directors and the governing body. Human resources, they set the policies, law and regulations for the whole entire company. So whether it's all the managers, all the employees, part-timers, contractors, you name it. And it's really crucial because without a HR system, a proper HR system, you cannot have a very strong system in the company. Therefore, human resources adequate in every single company.
And how about these smaller companies?
Smaller companies tend to not have HR. If I would say HR, you would need HR if you're starting off with 20 or more people. But if it's less than 20 employees, then you don't need a system like that.
What is the largest company you've been working for? I mean, in terms of the employees.
I worked for an American company based in the United Kingdom, and it was over 15,000 employees.
15,000.
Yeah.
And then how do you manage then and track this? Because everybody still thinks that maybe you just keep your books and maybe Excel file, but it's not like that. There are special softwares you have to get to know and you need to learn how to operate. Could you please share any information on that?
Sure. I mean, obviously HR in Europe is completely different to here in Kurdistan. Like I said, it's fairly new in the region. Whereas if you're working for a bigger company in London, for example, you have a whole team and you have different branches and different companies and you manage it together. And in each building you have a HR manager and then your HR coordinator, officers, administrators. So you have an entire team. The HR manager alone won't deal with everything alone. So they have a whole team to coordinate together. So
can you share more details on the softwares? Because till now, maybe when I say software, people think maybe it's an app for the phone or that in order to manage 15,000 employees, you can use an Excel sheet, but it's not how this works. So could you please introduce maybe the most famous and popular softwares and then explain how they work?
Sure. So I've worked with two softwares, HR softwares. One is Sage and one is People. These two softwares has all of the information you need to know about an employee, their CV, their interview techniques, their testing, if they've come into the company before they've been employed, all their testing, all the answers that they've given, all their certificates and all their background is in that information. So the HR software, Sage and People, will store all the information about every single employee, for example, all their certificates, all their CV that they've obtained, and it's also a communication way between the employee and the manager. So if you have something personal to discuss with me, it will go through the Sage or People.
So I don't need to meet you in person.
Exactly.
I just can't communicate through the system.
Everything is confidential.
Software.
All your training, for example, if I need to send you on training, I will put all the academic steps into this software and I'll make sure that you're following it. So for example, if you've joined the company, within 1 year I'm going to evaluate your position. I want to see how far you've come. If you've got any gaps between your skills, is there something that you're lacking? And if you are lacking it, I'm going to try and send you on training so that you're stronger. Because there's a quote, and Steve Jobs, I don't know if you must know of him.
Course,
yes,
everyone.
And he has a quote that says, invest in your people because your employees are going to invest back into you. So if you look after your employees are going to be loyal to you and they're going to look after you in the long run.
That's correct. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You can, make this analogy with your house. If you invest in your house, then you live in it and then you enjoy it. Nothing is breaking, nothing is leaking. So,
absolutely.
And that's great. Speaking of Steve Jobs, he is giving great advices on human resources and management and working with people.
Yeah.
And even for our students, we've got his biography in the library. So from very young age, everybody knows about him as well. And as far as they're using his products.
One advice that I give to managers is to never be bossy or pushy with employees, because if you understand your employees, if you understand their background, if you understand the problems that they're having and you connect with them emotionally, then you can get so much back in return from your employees. So it's really important that management in every single company take courses on a regular basis. You need to look after the psychological effect of your employees. This is very, very crucial.
All right, Natalie, you got a really good point on that employers, they have to be really patient with their employees, polite, and listen to them more, because it very much matters for the employee how the communication goes between them. But what I've noticed here in Kurdistan, a lot of companies, they grow rapidly and they have a big shortage of staff and personnel, and a lot of employers, they have to do a lot of jobs. They do a HR job, they do a procurement job, and sometimes they're really afraid or do not feel confident delegating these jobs. So what can you advise to people who manage companies which are growing, or they're not that big till now, but they are improving, they're growing, how to step out of your comfort zone and let somebody else help you and do part of your job, how to delegate?
There's a hierarchy system here, whereas the hierarchy means obviously there's a dominance in power. In certain places there's a dominance in business, and you cannot change the mentality of a lot of people, but I do suggest that people take on board that when you do have a business, you need to employ the right people for this business. You cannot get somebody who lacks qualification, lacks experience just to save money. If you want a business to return your capital, you need to invest in the employees as well as the business, and that's how it's going to return back into you. But like I said, this region economically and academically is still in the process of developing. It's a developing country. So obviously it's going to take time, but I think we will get there one day.
So what I'm saying, when a lot of employers, they take a lot of responsibilities on themselves, and that little amount of employees they have and they have to deal with, it's getting difficult for them because they do not really have time and energy, to listen to them, because they are overwhelmed with other tasks which they would be able to delegate if they find a right person.
This all falls onto the business and how much money you're putting into your business. This is what I was referring to. If you are comfortable with investing in your business, then obviously you're going to invest in your employees, which everyone is going to do some certain things in different aspects. But it all depends on every single individual. We can just try and advise, managers, businesses, but it all falls down under their circumstances.
So we spoke about employees and people who work for somebody in a big companies or small companies. Any advice you can give to bosses, to those who manage big amount of information? They have to handle a big amount of responsibility, and they have to think about improvement. Any advice for them how to not to get burnt out and overwhelmed with the work, so it will not affect on their business, it will not really affect on the employees, and they will have enough time for everything and for themselves as well? Because I'm sure a lot of people watching right now this program, they are dealing with these situations.
Of course. In every business environment, when you do a business, you have to prepare a proposal for the next 6 months. You need to look at your financial status. You need to look at the economical things that are taking place around the region, because this kind of stuff will affect your business. And when it affects your business, it's going to affect you. And when that affects you, it's going to affect the employees. So you need to be very prepared. If a sudden pandemic happens, you need to know what you're going to do with your employees and how you're going to treat them, or what is the next step into, compelling this business so that it doesn't fall behind. In this region, like I said, they don't really consider this kind of stuff. They go by a daily basis of how to run the next step, but you really have to look into 6 months to a year plan.
And how to start, because it's very difficult to jump from no plan to 6 months or a yearly plan.
Absolutely.
So how to begin? Or maybe you can also suggest some softwares to start using, applications. Because when we talk about planning, we think maybe I have to take a piece of paper and then start writing everything.
Absolutely.
But maybe there are some resources which can be helpful for people to start it. It's not only for business holders, right? Owners, for employers. It's for everyone, for students, for people who work for somebody. Planning is essential. Even if I am an employee, I can plan ahead my finances, my education, and everything. So, and as I know, you've got a really good experience in planning. So
planning is for every single individual. You don't need to be a business to be planning, okay? If you wake up during the day, you're going to plan ahead. You know what you're going to do in the next half an hour. You know what you're going to do in the evening or tomorrow or the next week. So this applies to every single thing around you, or every single individual, every single business. And it's like I said, a smart business person will sit down and clarify what is going to be happening in the next few months. You know this pandemic is happening. You have staff that are sitting at home that are not doing anything. You can recommend them to do some online courses, some online training that they can build themselves and stabilize themselves. And that when they do return, they have a plan, they have an agenda of what they're going to do in the next 6 months, for example.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Instead of just waiting,
exactly,
you can educate them on something new.
Absolutely. Reading, documentaries, YouTube. YouTube is the biggest university of all. You will learn so much from it, There's a lot of information you can get out there, and just, have as much knowledge as you can.
Or watch Cambridge Educational
Absolutely,
Channel.
Definitely Cambridge Educational Channel.
Yeah. All right. So yes, that's a great idea. And how to start planning? Any application, like phone apps, you can suggest for anybody who just want to start planning the day, let's say?
I'm an old school person, so I always have a diary. I don't recommend apps personally. You will lose your software, you will crash, you have to upload things on iCloud. So for me personally, I always carry a book, a diary, and I note everything, what I'm going to do, all my meetings, all the people I'm going to meet, what is my notes, what is my top priority, and how I'm going to do that. Stores I need to go to, places I need to go to. So it's always a diary for me, definitely.
And thank you for this great advice, because for some people maybe diaries is something, as you said, old school, and then they look forward something else. But I think to start planning, it's really a good idea to use the diary at the beginning, and then you can, if you don't want to carry this book with you all the time, because for some people it's like extra weight, so you can transfer this information to the application
stuff. I always lose information, which is why I don't prefer apps. Always the book.
Well, you can always back it up.
Exactly.
Okay, great. We're done with planning right now, and everyone is set. So the next question everyone would have: what to do if an employee having troubles and difficulties with the employer? What to do in that case? I know that internationally and also in a large company, you would have your rights protected. But here in Kurdistan, as you mentioned earlier, situation is a bit different. And what to do and how to deal with that issue here?
Yeah. My recommendations is for every company to have rules and regulations placed. Like I said, investing in your employees is the crucial factor in every single business. If an employee has certain issues within the company, it's the duty of the HR manager and the CEO to make sure that the employee is talking about the problems, talking about the issues, and that they come to an agreement, they come to solving those problems, because you don't want to bring your problems out of work into the work environment, and it does affect a lot of people.
And some personal problems are difficult to handle by yourself. Yes, you're right. And after all, your company becomes your second home and your family.
Absolutely.
And if you do not have this connection and understanding, it's going to be really difficult to handle
Absolutely.
the job. And what kind of support companies can provide to employees who are getting some troubles or difficulties?
So HR manager, I always refer to as the mother of the whole company, because that's where everybody goes for advice. That's where everybody goes in if they have an issue, if they have a problem. And as a HR manager, you need to listen. You need to be very effective on their psychological effect and how they're going to talk to you and what you're going to give back to them. So if they do have a problem, you will make sure that you've sorted their problems out. Because like I said, if you're investing in them, you know, you need to make sure that they feel comfortable when they come into work. If they're not happy with a certain issue, you solve that problem out for them. Sometimes certain matters are difficult to resolve, but there's always a solution to every problem.
All right, so the advice is not to be afraid to speak. Just go ahead and share your problems and situation, and there could be help, because as an HR, you can have a lot of different connections, and maybe if the person himself or herself doesn't know what to do or where to go, you might have this connection or advice for them.
Absolutely.
That is great. And you know, whatever you're saying right now really sounds encouraging. So let's say so everyone will follow this advice and not to feel hesitated in case of situation like that happen. All right. So I know that your name is Natalie. That's how everyone knows you here. That's how I know you. But as well, I know that you've got a little bit of story behind your name, Natalie, because as you said, you coming from Kurdish part of Iran, Eastern Kurdistan, and Natalie is not really a common name for this region.
That's right. My original name is Nishtman. Nishtman means watan. Watan means homeland. So my parents both named me that when I was born in Mahabad in Eastern Kurdistan. So when I went to London and I was in primary school, I got bullied a lot. So they used to call me Nishi Fishy. So they couldn't pronounce the name. So we changed that to Natalie so that I don't get bullied. So now it's officially Natalie Nishtman.
So now it's officially like in all your paperwork,
all
it's
paperwork,
Natalie.
it's Natalie, yeah.
Okay, and I know that you have one more advice for our viewers.
And that advice is for all parents to listen to their kids, because every individual child is different. Do not compare them to other children at all, because one might be loud, one might be quiet, one might be into something else. As they're growing up, encourage them, you know, to follow what they're into, you know, what they want to be in when they grow up, what their career path is.
And you're giving this advice from the perspective of a mother.
Absolutely.
And also from the perspective of a mother of the company.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
both ways you can't really compare, and you have to give your support and encourage your kids to find better opportunities to
follow their dream.
Follow the dream.
Yes.
So Natalie, what was your dream when you were growing up?
So I come from a musical family. My mother's a Kurdish singer, my father's a musician. So I always wanted to be a singer, but then I stopped completely at the age of 18 and I went towards business. I was always into real estate, economy, finance, so I completely changed my career.
So do you think that one day you will get back to that?
What, to sing in?
Yeah,
maybe
at
as a
least
hobby.
For fun.
As a hobby for fun, yes, but not professionally.
Thank you so much for coming over and sharing all this valuable advices and information with our viewers.
My pleasure.
I'm sure a lot of them got a lot of useful points which they can use right now, either to look for jobs or choose their degree in order to further find the job of their dreams.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And I hope your project about supporting and encouraging the graduates takes place very soon, and we see a lot of successful professionals very soon here in Kurdistan.
Thank you, thank you. Hopefully it will, and obviously as soon as it runs up, I will share the information with you, and we would love to take some students from Cambridge and give them some experience from this young age, so it will be a pleasure.
That would be amazing.
Great.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us today in this episode, and see you next time. Bye bye.